Hello and welcome to the Pop Pod. I am Sam, also known as Pop Sam Cam, and I'm just going to get straight into this episode because we are counting down the top 5 most important pop stars right now. If you've been listening to the pod for a while, you'll remember I did this a couple months ago, and I'm going to keep checking in throughout the year to see where things are heading. If you like the podcast, make sure you follow or subscribe, rate it 5 stars so that we can get it out there far and wide with pop fans. That's all I've got to say, and I'm rushing because I'm excited to announce who is going to be running through this list with me today. He's an old friend and an old foe. My Flop Stars podcast co-host of the Hot Hits on the Hit Network in Australia. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, you nailed it.
That's right. Nic Kelly, thank you for coming on the Pop Pod.
It's so
this
good
feels
to be
weird.
Here. I know.
It's like speaking to a family member in an official capacity.
It's very strange. I'm an avid listener. I've got many bones to pick with Jono on the Bop or Flop episodes. So it's good that he's not here and that it's just you and I today to go through this list. And I
said
concerned.
that you wouldn't share.
Never. I never want to be in the same room as him.
For those of you who haven't seen Nick and I together ever, you've missed out. But we have our podcast, Flop Stars, which is always in a constant state of hiatus or going full throttle. And don't worry, the conversations continue to happen about when Flop Stars will come back. But consider this a mini Flop Stars reunion for now.
Yeah, deep negotiations will continue. We're like the Fifth Harmony minus Camilla of pop podcasts.
Yeah, who are we not going to bring back for Flop Stars? There's only 2 of us, so...
It's a fight to the death.
Silent producer Bianca will have to go.
She's chopped straight
away.
Gone.
Now I've got vocal producer Jono. It's very different.
Vocal producer Jono is so good.
All right, you're just like ears on our catch up right now. So we'll put that on ice while we count down the top 5 most important pop stars right now. My list last time, I think, included Doechii, SZA, Gaga, Kendrick, and there was one more that I can't remember right now. But things have changed quite a lot since then. I don't know what the charts are looking like in Australia, but the charts here in America are looking pretty dire. There are songs that have been around for well over a year, charting in the top 10 for well over a year. Alex Warren's at number 1 with Ordinary. And you've got the Alex Warren drink bottle there. Perfect.
Ready to go.
So, things are not good. Not even, I think, has Raven Lenae made the top 10 there yet?
She has. Top 5, actually, in Australia. I think the peak was
That's
number
amazing.
4 last week when she was here doing shows. And genuinely one of the most incredible shows I've seen in a few years as well. So she feels like she's made a real good imprint here in Australia.
She's getting there, but it's slow at the moment. I think it's just slow in general for pop music. And I think we're going to talk about this a lot as the podcast goes on. But like the summer of pop that was last year is certainly not what's happening this year.
Exactly. It is dire straits. And not just because of Morgan Wallen. I would have thought that was the only thing that was blocking it. But there's a few other things that just need to
there's a lot.
Need to go. There needs to be some freshness come through.
It's a real white man hand on thigh kind of slap folky situation going on right now. It's the Lumineers. I just recorded something today and I was like, to say in 2025 that the Lumineers have been a large influence on what is happening in the charts right now is a horrible sentence to come out of my mouth. But
Lumineers and Mumford & Sons have such a chokehold on the sound of 2025 to the point where I was talking to a friend the other day and he was hearing the hey, take my heart and break me in Miles Smith. Yeah. And he was like, is that Hey a producer tag? Because like I heard it in the Lumineers and I've heard it in so many songs this year. Is it like all the same producer? I'm like, no.
It's Metro Boomin.
Switching shit up.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, well, I feel like this leads me nicely into my number 5. If you'll allow me to go first, but
please.
I have reluctantly put Alex Warren at number 5. The reason I say this is because Ordinary is the biggest song in the world right now by quite a margin.
You're taking me out of the ordinary. I but you're laying me down till we're dead and buried on the edge of your knife.
I think that it is showing where pop is heading in terms of a much more conservative fashion. It obviously celebrates monogamy and marriage, and there are Christian undertones to the song as well. And I think it's not just about Alex Warren, but it's about this whole movement that is happening with folk music. I also think that Alex, in many other parts of the world, has shown that he's not a one-hit wonder. This is certainly his first big hit in the US, but I think in the UK and Australia, he's been pretty present in the charts for at least a year now. And to me is showing this kind of like Ed Sheeran stickiness that could suggest that he is going to stick around for a while. What do you think?
I don't know if he's got Ed Sheeran's relatability factor. I do think he can be quite self-deprecating and quite funny when you look at him online, but I don't know whether that personality comes through in the music entirely. Carry You Home, as you suggested.
No, but do you think it came through the music with Ed Sheeran early on either?
I think at least, if you think about Ed's first big hit being A-Team, that song was very unique. And you compare that to something like
That's
Ordinary, which is a very traditionally structured pop song that I would argue could be sung by a Jelly Roll or a Miles Smith or a...
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And I don't know whether Ed had that. And I still think even when Ed goes in, regardless of whether he's doing the acoustic side of things or the sort of more bombastic pop, I still think there is an element of personality that's always shined through with him, whether it is A Shape of You or an A-Team, that I don't think I was about to say Miles Smith. They're all blending into one for me.
They are really all blending into
I don't know whether Alex has managed to push that through. I think the two songs are objectively great. Carry You Home. As you suggested, was a big hit at radio here, especially when the Ella Henderson version started rolling around, and then Ordinary was just very, very quick to go straight to radio and straight into the zeitgeist, and obviously straight up the streaming chart as well. But I don't know. He's not in my top 5. I will reveal. He's probably bubbling just under it. But I just don't know whether I agree with your point on the stickiness of it so far. It's going to take a third and a fourth single. I know he's got Bloodline with Jelly Roll, which they are pushing like shit up a hill at the moment to try and make a hit. I'm not 100% convinced that will get there. I don't know yet. I don't know yet for Australia. I can definitely see why, given the current US situation. It may work there, and particularly because Jelly Roll's a lot more established. We've only really had one big Jelly Roll hit here in Liar. But I'm not 100% there with Alex yet. I think he's a very hard-working artist. I think he's done social incredibly well, and obviously he's a very social native. But whether the songs are going to stick and have enough point of difference to be a definitive Alex Warren kind of sound, I'm not 100% convinced with yet.
Yeah, I guess what's convincing me is that Alex Warren is a figurehead for a much larger sort of movement going on at the moment, for kind of what would be the word? Averageness, maybe.
There is, yeah. It's a difficult one because I listened to this song and I think it is objectively excellent. And I saw his performance at the AMAs the other week and I thought that was really, really good. The backing vocals were definitely doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but I did still think it was a pretty good performance. And I can see, a personality in there that could shine through. But he's so young and so fresh to this, and I think I'm not sure with 2 hits on the board, the size of the touring that he's doing at the moment is going to be kind of sustainable. That said, the venues he's sold out in Australia without Bloodline even being out and Ordinary only being a couple of weeks old, like he's selling arenas out in Australia very, very quickly.
So that's very quick.
Yeah. So there is definitely something that's above just any
There's something happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, give me your number 5.
My number 5 is a slightly more palatable option, I believe, for you and for the Pop Pod fans. My number 5 at the moment is Doechii. I think the way...
She was in my last one.
I thought so, yeah. I think the way that she has navigated things since Alligator Bites has been nothing short of genius. The way that Denial took off with real heart and soul, and again, it's that personality thing. Like, you know, no other song has sounded like Denial this decade.
Took a scroll through his IG just to get a DM from his wife. I was so confused, what should Doechii do? She didn't know about me and I didn't know about Sue.
No other songs felt like Denial. The way that it was kind of pushed into the world via those really artistic kind of performances was one of a kind. The way that she speaks, the way that she acts, the way that she stands up for people is one of a kind. And then I think what puts her at 5 instead of a 2 or a 1 is the way that Anxiety has been received, I think. Where it started as this really fun, cool kind of resurgence of a song that she'd put on YouTube 5 years prior to now being this almost accidentally force-fed radio hit. And that's no fault of her own, but it definitely, the feeling I get with that song at the moment is it does feel like it is blending in to the rest of pop music, at least in the Australian zeitgeist. And I think all the uniquity that comes with Denial isn't there with Anxiety. And that makes sense because this is a song she did as a fun little sort of freestyle 5 or 6 years ago to show off, you know, what she's capable of. And I think I'm just getting frustrated that it takes her singing and doing an obvious hook for people for this to fly up the charts when we know she's capable of so much better types of storytelling. So through no fault of her own, I'll put Doechii at number 5 at the moment. What do you think?
Yeah, she's definitely just outside of my top 5, and for the exact same reasons that you said, which is Anxiety obviously got a quick hit, but it's a little bit like Sugar in that it was like a fast rush and now it's going to be a bit of a come down. And I think because she had kind of nurtured her niche fan base so well with Alligator Bites. And had that really organic rise through just the strength of that project, to then have a song that's kind of annoying people a little bit is a very different turn for her. And like, I just hope that it's become so kind of like ingrained in everything that's happening in the mainstream right now that people will almost just forget it was even Doechii, and she'll just be back where she was when Denial was blowing up, but now she has a hit on the board. You know, I don't think that Anxiety is going to tell the Doechii story when we look back in 5 to 10 years on what she's doing, but she's definitely the most exciting artist kind of in cycle right now, for me anyway, I would say. And I can't wait to see like what happens now, given that she's coming off the back of a mixtape, and I'm assuming we're going to go into a proper era with like proper budget. It's going to be like massive, I think.
And that's the thing, and I think if a song like this doing the chart and streaming numbers that it can do can unlock more budget for her to make sure that this next album is a slam dunk, I think that's a really exciting proposition. And I always like to look at these things as like, if you know, this is the moment that she's got the most eyeballs and ears on her of her career so far, if like 10% of those people, or even 5% or even 1%, take that as like an introduction to Doechii and then go through and discover the rest and become rusted on fans, then I think it's worth the little bit of annoyance it gives people. And it's not an annoying song. I just think it has seeped so quickly into everything in the pop zeitgeist that, you know, the oversaturation of it potentially becomes annoying for people. But I think it's actually a really great song and really well put together.
Yeah, it's clever. I never found it annoying at the start. I guess just the oversaturation of it is what that inevitably leads to. And it does have a certain annoying quality to it that, if heard on repeat, can really make itself known quite obviously, which I think is what's happened. So
totally.
Fast death to Anxiety, I say, and quick rise back to what Doechii was doing before.
100%.
In number 4, I've got one that is actually kind of at the end of her cycle, but it's just not dying, and that is Billie Eilish. And didn't consider her for the last one because I kind of thought that Hit Me Hard and Soft was dying off. But currently, Wildflower and Birds of a Feather are either in the top 10 of the global Spotify charts or they're still hovering around. And that to me is just phenomenal to have one song that was a huge viral hit and is sticking around, another song that wasn't even a single from the record and is sticking around. For people to still be that invested in an era, in a time when pop eras go so quickly and are just like such a quick sort of exit now, I just think that is the mark of an artist who people are starting to recognize is probably one of the greatest of our time and has a classic in Birds of a Feather.
Birds of a feather, we should stick together. I know I said I'd never think I wasn't better alone.
That is going to go on to withstand generations, in my opinion. And that's why I just had to put her here because she's still, I think she's finishing up the Hit Me Hard and Soft tour or has announced that she's coming back to the US on a few more dates, a hugely successful tour. Just like still so present, even though the project's a year old. I know that you've like spoken to her, you've seen the show, like you've done your time with Billie.
This was the hardest one to leave out of my top 5 because I thoroughly agree with you.
I'm interested in us both having very different top 5s.
Yeah, I thought they were going to converge, and I still feel like they may converge in the top 3. I agree with everything that you've said. I think the way that not just she has handled this era's sustainability, but that the fact that she's allowed the fans to drive this era being sustainable and never too much and never oversaturated. I don't think anyone, despite Billie being in the zeitgeist kind of every day, I'm going to say zeitgeist 100 times on this podcast, by the way.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't think anyone would say that Billie is oversaturated or that anything was too much. I think she's been very calculated, but also very authentic in the way that she's handled this. And I spoke to her a little bit about that in the conversation we got to have when she was in Australia, where she did some really strategic media that she didn't need to do. The shows were sold out easily. Album was out. Yeah. Birds had done what it had done. She didn't need to do press, but she did a few conversations which were opportunities for her to kind of explain the context of the album after it's kind of had its time.
Settled, I like that.
Yeah. And and a lot of what she spoke about was the fan-driven response of Birds of a Feather and now Wildflower. The fact that the fans are choosing what is a hit and how it becomes a hit. And the other thing is the sustainability of her touring and the fact that she is taking her time to go around the world and taking her time and doing things slowly and not overdoing it. And that is a very difficult balance to get right without becoming boring. And I think the way that she has handled this era has been phenomenal. And I think you're right. The legacy that she's built at such a young age and still being present in the charts and present in everyone's minds is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. It like struck me recently that I put her in conversations of people like Lizzo and like some of the artists who've been around for quite a while. And rather than putting her in conversation with artists like Olivia Rodrigo and like Tate McRae, but that's the age she's of. It's just that she's been around for 10 years doing this. Like, it's insane.
It's
the
wild.
Longevity that she's managed to have in such a longevity in relatively short time. I think juxtaposing statements, but she's managed to do both. Yeah,
100%.
It's incredible. Okay, hit me with your number 4. You're
My
smiling,
number 4,
I'm worried.
My number 4 is Benson Boone.
Okay, this is your Alex Warren of the list.
This is my Alex Warren. It had to be in there.
Hit me.
I don't think, and look, this may be a slight Australian bias, but from, Beautiful Things onwards, it's been non-stop Benson. And the way that these songs have just sort of smashed through the gates has been incredible. I think the way that the public reaction and some of the negative reaction and criticism of him at the moment is going on, I actually think it's fueling something. And I think it's kind of at least opening a conversation about a male artist being abrasive again abrasive in kind of an interesting way, rather than, and I actually think he's kind of one of the antidotes to this sort of boring middle of with the exception of Mama's Song, or whatever the fuck that thing is called. He's at least doing something with a bit of power and a bit of strength to it, and with a bit of interest in the songwriting while still keeping it in a pop lane. I think Sorry I'm Here for Someone Else is a fucking excellent pop song.
Sorry, I'm here for someone else. It's good to see your face, and I really hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well.
And I like the fact that he feels like a bit of an antidote to that real knee slapper kind of Christian undertones kind of thing, even though I know his religious background. I think, you know, and it seems that regardless of what people are saying about him from a negative light, nothing seems to be getting on top of him and nothing seems to be pushing him down the charts. You see Beautiful Things still sustaining, and I think that song has a lot of legacy to it now, and is sustainable for a long time.
These beautiful things that I've got, please stay.
I think the one probably thing that's missing is probably, you know, the enormity from a touring perspective. But I think at least from a release perspective and from a artist presence perspective, he deserves to be top 5 at the moment. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in two minds about Benson Boone. So the bit that I'm struggling to get my head around with Benson Boone, there's two things I've decided. The first thing is that the hard work really shows, and not in a good way. I think it's great to be ambitious and for you to be very vocal about your ambition. But the problem with sometimes hard work is I think that you lose sight of what your true, like, calling is in terms of what you want to do artistically, because you follow wherever you can, because you're so, like, you've got your sights set on reaching this certain point and you'll get there no matter what. And I think that plucking the Freddie Mercury kind of thing from the top of the pile doesn't feel authentic to me and doesn't work. And I don't like the, like, jumpsuit thing. I don't like any of that because I don't think it's where he came from, and I don't think it's what he truly wants to do. Like, I think that Beautiful Things is closer to who the real Benson Boone is, if Benson Boone even knows who the real Benson Boone is. Like, I feel like he's just willing to do anything at this point to get to where he needs to go. And I think he will get to where he needs to go because he is that hardworking. And I feel like the songs are, like, anywhere between pretty good to good. I'm just not buying the like Freddie Mercury thing at all, to be honest, particularly from a Mormon.
I'd like you. I agree, and I don't know. Did you ever have a conversation with him before he kind of blew up? Did you ever do?
No, I've never spoken to him. No,
I did a couple back in the day when he was really, you know, just a bubbling under kind of emerging artist. And yeah, I would agree that what he's doing right now doesn't feel true to that person. I also think when you look at Beautiful Things and when you look sonically at something like Sorry I'm Here, that sits more for me in the Springsteen camp of things. And I'd love him to go harder into that direction.
That's what he is. Yeah. Because when I saw the album cover, I was like, oh, this is Springsteen. But another issue with this, and this is something that Silent Producer Bianca brought to my attention as well, is that, like, that image is so provoking of him with the American flag behind him and, like, the mud all over him. But, like, what is he trying to say? Because if Bruce Springsteen did that, he would know exactly what he was trying to say, you know? Like, yeah, I just don't know why you need to use an image like that if you're not exactly sure what you're trying to evoke by doing something like that. And maybe we'll be surprised and there'll be a song on the album that's like pledging allegiance to the flag or saying fuck America. Who knows? But we're yet to see it.
If you're going to use those kinds of pastiches, you know, you've got to be sure of who you are. And I think if you do a comparison between something like this and something like Billie, all of the creative and the kind of visual and sonic direction for Billie is so singular and so unique. Like, she's not the first person to use blue and use the ocean and those kind of, themes in everything. But it does feel singularly hers at the moment. She kind of owns that image and that feel, and it feels authentic to her as well. And it doesn't feel like she's tried to be the next X or the next X. And I think that's a trap that people fall into, because music fans who aren't super tapped in love familiarity, and they love something they've heard and seen before. So I think it's probably a bit of an audience research thing of working out who that fan base actually is, because at the moment he's kind of going from a shitload of different fan bases, because it feels like with something like Beautiful Things, he's going for middle America, mums. With Sorry I'm Here, he's going for like a younger audience. It's a little bit more progressive and a little bit more excited.
Worked on me. That was my favourite one.
Oh, as soon as I heard that, 1, 2, 1, I'm like, I'm fucking in. Sign me up for this. Yeah, it's just a process for him, I think.
I think maybe he'll find out where he lands, but I don't disagree with you on him being one of the main sort of conversation points in pop music now, for better or for worse. And that's what this list is about. I think it's about spotlighting just who is directing the conversation, and the Benson Boone of it all is absolutely directing the conversation.
Yeah.
My number 3, I'm really on the fence about this, and I think I'm just going to have to do a tie, because they're two very different artists, but it's Charli XCX and Kendrick Lamar. The reason that I'm going with Charli is because she is still riding the Brat era. Party for You is becoming a massive hit here and could potentially surpass any hit from Brat, bar maybe Guess.
It's true, I only do this party for you. I only do this party for you, for you, for you. I'm about to party on you. Watch me party on you.
She's on this summer tour run now, where she just continues to extend the kind of like Brat summer legacy and manages to make it fun, and like we're heading to something with the Brat flag kind of disintegrating, and like it feels like she has something planned at the end of that, and she just continues to like Easter egg enough to keep everybody on the Brat train, and I feel like that is so impressive. But the other reason that I think that she's so important right now is because I don't think there's a single pop star marketing boardroom that isn't discussing Brat marketing in some kind of way. And because of that, Charli's legacy is being carried well into this year, because we're seeing it with everyone from Lorde to Haim to even, I think, Tate McRae is like taking a bit of the Charli marketing tactic. So she's my tied third, and then my other one is Kendrick Lamar, who was my number 1, and the only reason that he's dropped off slightly is because I just think naturally the era is like coming to the downslope of the bell curve. But I saw him a couple weeks ago with SZA, and it's just like undeniably been such a moment for him.
Maybe you will stop, strike, goes, and I'm with you, everything goes, come in, put that on my soul.
He's been able to like dominate the zeitgeist in such a unique way, and is just honestly such a like generational figure that will go down as one of the greatest of all time. And like, I think it's just fun to like appreciate the success of Kendrick Lamar right now. So that's where I am with those two, which are just totally different levels. But yeah.
I do think there are some lines to be drawn, though.
Okay.
They're both artists.
Draw them.
So here's my 2 lines I draw. They are both artists who have spent their entire careers being 100% themselves, and when they're not being themselves, they're being self-aware about it. When they're trying for a hit or they're trying for a moment, they're being
totally
self-aware
true.
about it. And when they come back to themselves, that's when they get the biggest moment of their career. So I think that's a tied kind of moment. And again, it goes back to that authenticity thing we talked about with pretty much all of these artists. That is the thing that pop music fans are looking for in 2025. And I think the other thing, what was my other point? Don't worry about it. That was enough of a tie together.
Perfect.
Of those
I liked that tie anyway. Why don't you hit me with your 3? 3?
3. Yeah.
The counting's going really well. I've really set it off with that tie there.
That's perfect. How long did you want this episode to be, by the way? Because
Look, they're usually around half an hour, but this one's running long.
As usual. My number 3, I am incredibly impressed and feel like I wake up every day to a new headline about Lorde. And I think this...
Oh my God, I totally forgot to put Lorde in this.
Because when you were saying a minute ago, Charlie, slightly influencing Lorde a little bit, I'm like, oh, does that mean Lorde's not in yours? Okay,
no, she's not in mine. But yeah, I'm glad she's in yours.
Yeah, I just think, this is an artist who has often led her album campaigns with not much talk and with allowing the music to do the talking. But I actually like the way that she has kind of changed the narrative about herself by doing a lot of talking this time.
Yeah.
And that is talking to press and doing some really strategic press interviews that actually have virality to them, and kind of knowing what she's saying in those. She's exceptionally self-aware, knowing what she's saying in those press interviews to make sure that people hear them. And also the way...
by them.
And are annoyed by them. And also the way that she's been doing the direct-to-fan stuff through this era. It is not a new thing to do surprise pop-ups and do pop-up parties and stuff, but in Australia, popping into a Lorde appreciation night that was $10 tickets and no one had genuinely any idea that she was coming.
Genius.
Even me,
and very Charlie.
Very, very Charlie, exactly.
Yeah.
And even me, who I normally know about these things in advance. I only had about a 20-minute heads up that she was going to be there, and it was genuinely
Did
so
you go?
hush. No, I couldn't get a ticket. Couldn't get in.
Wow.
And that was really nicely done. The fact that they kept this so private and no one knew she was even in the country. So it was genuinely mostly all fans there and no press managed to get in. I really liked that about it.
That's so good.
And then she goes over to New Zealand and she does listening parties with 30 people at a time in a toilet in Auckland.
I could not believe when I saw they were in a toilet. I'm like, were they sitting on the floor? I hope that thing was disinfected well.
Exactly.
Because I would have been a little wary about placing my bottom on the floor of a YMCA bathroom.
That's what it looked like as well. And
it was.
Was it a YMCA?
It was a YMCA.
That's me doing the YMCA.
Exactly. Yes.
I just think,
Trump of you.
And using using genuine fans and the respect these fans have coming out of these, moments. And there were little Vox Pop interviews with the Auckland fans coming out and being like, we're not allowed to say anything. I'm like, I'm not going to say anything, but it was really special to us. Those have ripple effects to this fan base. I'm really, and I also love that despite how vocal she's been, I still have no fucking idea what this album's going to sound like. And I love that.
Yeah. And this is what I love about what happened with Charlie last year and what people are carrying through this year is that it's all about nurturing your core fan base and knowing from there word will spread. Knowing that they are the seed that are going to grow and make this a much bigger thing than just your core. I think it's so cool how Lorde's been embracing that, and also embracing the idea of giving the fans what they want in some kind of way. What was that? Definitely heralded back to sort of a melodrama-esque level of euphoria.
MDMA in the back garden, blow pupils up. We kiss for hours straight, well baby, what was that?
And then Man of the Year, I think, goes into some of the more tougher stuff that she's ever done.
Love me like this, now I'm broken open. Let's hear it for the Man of the Year.
I just think the music's been brilliant. I'm loving the rollout, even though some people have qualms with it. I just love her in general, and I love that she's not afraid to provoke and poke in the wrong ways. And I think that's exciting, than somebody just trying to cater to everybody.
100%.
So I'm very happy that you put that there, and that Thank you. Forgot to put one of my favorite artists of all time in the list.
She's your girl.
Speaking of goats of all timers, in number 2, I've got Lady Gaga. She was in my last list. I don't think that the Mayhem hype has died. The show's sold incredibly well. And what I love about her and what I love about certain tours, I think of Eras tour, I think of Renaissance, I think of the Short and Sweet tour. when the tour is that good and the show is that good, the era can genuinely live on for as long as the tour goes for, because people will just keep talking about it. The Brazil thing was absolutely insane. The shows in Singapore looked insane. I think she's heading to Australia at the end of the year to do stadium shows. She's doing arena shows here later on. And it's all with the same show that she had at Coachella. But she's managed to keep the headlines going just because the crowd is so into this. And the story of having a Lady Gaga renaissance in 2025, where she's making some of the best music of her career, is exciting, and it's great to watch. And she will always be one of the most important pop stars of this generation, but to have her in the list right now, in like a list that changes with virality and like can change every couple weeks, I love that she's here, to be honest, and she's my number 2.
I love that for you as well. And obviously we were together the day that Abracadabra dropped. We were together on Grammys Day.
We reacted to it together.
All right, that's the kind of beat I'm expecting from this era.
Yeah, hard-hitting, aggressive Gaga. Yeah.
We did. Check that out on TikTok. I have to scroll down a fair bit. It's genuinely been so magic to see the resurgence and see the way that she's handled this. I do think you have a recency bias, though, having seen the show. Because
definitely
in Australia,
but that was still a couple months ago.
That's true, and Brazil was not long ago, and Singapore. Pretty much every gay man in Australia was at the Singapore shows. There wasn't a gay left in Sydney.
There was so many people who went to Singapore. How close is Singapore to Australia?
I think it's like 8 hours, but it's not.
Not
I think people were just fearful. No, but I think people were just fearful that she wouldn't come. Like that she wasn't going to do Australia.
And now she is coming.
And now
doing huge shows.
Yeah, and she'd announced that to her by the time she got to Singapore.
Okay, so I'm guessing in this case that Lady Gaga has not made your list.
She has not made my list on this occasion.
This is incredible. We could literally have an entirely different list, depending on who your next 2 are.
Well, I am very intrigued by this. My number 2... She was your number 2, yeah? Gaga?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're really doing well with the counting aspect of this. The artist bit, no problem. Not a worry to just talk shit for 10 minutes on each artist, but the counting, very difficult.
No, 5 is too hard. I wasn't very good at maths. My number 2, and if it was last week, it'd be a different conversation, but my number 2 is Taylor this time.
That's a good one. I didn't think of that.
What I think with her, right, I was thinking this last week that I feel like her not announcing Reputation, Taylor's version, at the AMAs, not knowing what was going on, I thought that was a good call because I thought she's probably almost on the verge of oversaturation and definitely has been for a few months. What I like about it is she's not done that, and then she's gone ahead and done this deal and announced it in the way that she has, with gratitude to fans, a love letter to fans for believing in her this whole way.
Yeah.
Put an almost released narrative rather than releasing music, and I think steered herself back into the zeitgeist again without it feeling like oversaturation, without 12 more bundles. And, you know, like...
It'll come. She'll be selling the note on a t-shirt very soon. Digital download of the note.
This is my fear that it could get to that point. But right now, I think she has once again learned from the past and kind of steered herself back in. Obviously, the music is still commercially performing exceptionally. And the fact that she is being talked about at the rate that she is without any recent music out, without any promises of new music to come, but still feeling in the zeitgeist and once again changing her narrative back to one of support for her rather than we're sick of Blondie. I really can respect and appreciate the way that they've navigated the last few months, and that is why she sits at my number 2 at this juncture.
I totally agree with you, and I think that her stocks went up in that moment because while the Taylor's version project was really fun at the beginning, and particularly while COVID was still kind of had a stranglehold, when she was releasing Red TV particularly, I think that one was so exciting and it just felt like we wanted more and more from Taylor. And then at some point I was like, I think around the 1989 TV one, I was like, oh no, this is starting to feel like a chore for us and her. And she still has to do Debut, which I think is the least exciting, like, prospect of all the Taylor's versions, and she has to do Reputation. And given the production that was on the 1989 Taylor's version, I was not excited about hearing the Reputation one. So now to be freed of that and know that she can release the vault tracks if she wants to or not, and we can go into a fresh Taylor era without that weighing us down anymore, I think is really exciting. And I think that she's done a good job in keeping pretty silent over the past few months. And even for me, who is probably like, I was getting a little tired, but I'm still always a fan. So I'm not at the most extreme end of that, but I'm starting to feel myself like listening to her again. So I'm like ready for her to return. And I think that this is a nice way to just like new chapter. We can finally close off both the eras to her and both this retread of the old and go into the new.
Yeah, 100%. It does feel like a fork in the road for her right now. And I listened to, there was a podcast, I think it's called Hits Different, and they kind of did an emergency episode when the deal was announced. And what I hadn't considered is there is a legion of Swifties who came in around Folklore and Evermore who have never heard some of these records in their original
That's very
format.
true, actually.
And knowing that, you know, the podcaster was kind of saying, like, this is the day that some of these Taylor fans get to hear this music for the first time, like the rest of us, and, you know, get to hear Reputation for the first time. And I really like that for the younger fans as well, that they get to kind of have this moment too.
Yeah.
God, we're positive
definitely.
today. It's disgusting.
We're so positive. It's weird. We haven't argued. We haven't said anything mean.
No.
We could change that. Let's see what our number ones are. In number one for me, and I feel that this could be different for you because I'm not sure like the holds that this artist has over in Australia, but my number one is currently Bad Bunny. And the reason why I say this is because he just has such a stranglehold on the culture here right now. And it's not only because he's in his knickers on every billboard around New York, but like the fact that he can do that kind of celebrity shit. Like he can be the Calvin Klein model. He can be dating, what's her name? The Jenna one. What's her name?
Jenna Ortega?
Oh, no, the Kardashian. God, why have I forgotten her name?
Jenna
She's
Kardashian?
so boring, this one.
Jenna.
How could I not remember her name?
Jenna?
You're kidding me. That you're just putting me off the set. Kylie, Kendall Jenner.
I think this is.
Like you
I
can
thought you were
do
talking about a
all
person
that
called
kind of
Jenna.
stuff. And I was just thinking the other day about how profound it is what he's doing right now. One, he's doing a world tour and he's not touching the US, which I think is so funny and so pertinent after all the stuff that went down with Puerto Rico during the election. The second thing is that he's managed to remain such a central figure without playing into any obvious mainstream tropes. Like this latest album gathers features purely from Puerto Rican artists, uses Puerto Rican references and influences, and has managed to bring that music to such a broad spectrum of people. He still has several songs in the top 20 of the global Spotify charts. DTMF is going to go down as one of the biggest songs of the year.
Debí tirar más fotos de cuando te tuve. Debí darte más besos y abrazo las veces que pude.
I think it getting warmer in parts of the world that are not Puerto Rico, which just has beautiful warm weather year round. I think that is going to help with the album as well to make it even bigger. And I just think that he has like a Kanye in his prime kind of level of influence right now, where without the Nazism of it all.
Yeah, of it all.
But you know, where Kanye was really experimenting and using so many different sounds and working with so many interesting people and still managing to have such a hold on the mainstream and the charts while also doing his own thing. I think that's exactly what Bad Bunny is doing right now. And I think for me, he's going to go down as the most profound artist of 2025 for sure, in an otherwise like somewhat boring year for innovation, I would say. So he's my number one.
Fascinating, because it will bring you no surprise that Australia has not had the same kind of reaction to this.
Right.
And I thought finally we would. But I don't think that matters, to be honest. I think Australia has always been an odd outlier when it comes to Latin music. And there's definitely a force for change going on at the moment. Shout out to Garcia, who is basically single-handedly leading that. We love Garcia. And, you know, J Balvin came here last year and that was one of my favourite concerts I've been to this decade. And it was only about half sold. And when you look at when you look at what Balvin does globally, you know, and that was an arena.
God knows worth coming.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And Bad Bunny will be the first Latin artist to do a stadium in Australia. He's doing the stadium where they used to do the Big Day Out in Sydney, which I know is a reference for you from when you used to throw coins on stage at a certain artist. Now, what I like about this is globally, the global relevance of this artist, enormous. And Australia can be the outlier here. I don't give a shit. Like, what he is doing in the US at the moment, and the fact that he is doing it as a Puerto Rican artist within the US context is nothing short of outstanding and phenomenal.
Yeah.
The music is exceptional. I love that music in a foreign language, not the 1975 album, the actual concept, is able to permeate so globally. And, you know, I was really kind of open to like foreign language music managing to make it into the US mainstream when Peso Pluma was coming through about 2 years ago. I was really impressed with that, and it really opened my eyes to like what is possible, and also reminds you how many people don't just speak English in this world.
Yeah.
Don't just speak English in the
Surprise,
US.
surprise.
Yeah, he's incredible, but he didn't make it into my top 5 because, that zeitgeist situation for him just isn't the same in Australia, despite the fact that, you know, if you were to ask anyone with a brain and a decent music taste, they would tell you they love Bad Bunny.
That's me. A brain, despite not being able to count.
Yeah. You're left brain.
I can count to number 1, though. I'm so intrigued. I couldn't even take a guess. Wait, can I take a guess?
You can take a guess, yes.
Okay, good, because I have no one top of mind. I think it's going to be... I think you're going to surprise me. I think it's going to be Tate McRae.
Absolutely not.
It's Katy Perry at number 1.
No, you're kidding me.
I am kidding. I'm just seeing. I'm seeing him. I'm going to the Lifetimes tour presented by Snaffle next Monday, and I'm very, very excited about it. It's going to change my life. My number 1 artist, and I woke up this morning to the news I think I was ready for about this artist, is Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, it's definitely in my top 10. And probably next week will be in the top 5 if what happens, if what I think is about to happen is going to happen.
Yeah. So we've woken up, well, I've woken up, you've, you know, lived a whole day, to the news of, you know, some billboards going up that seemingly are teasing new music for Sabrina, off the back of one of the best pop singles off an album campaigns in living memory.
100%.
You know, we're back to Teenage Dream, man. When you can have Feather into Espresso, into Please, 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 into bloody... Taste. Into
Bedcam.
Into Bedcam. Into Juno. Into Busy Woman.
Who knows where it even ends? It's insane. It's endless.
This is the thing. Without her feeling stale, without her feeling annoying, the songs are exceptional. She is so kind of sitting in this beautiful world between like old Hollywood and like sexy young pop star. She's bloody rumored to be in the new Mamma Mia at the moment. Like, she's in that sort of celebrity zeitgeist.
Which I saw and I was like, great, that makes total sense to me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Again, she's like the exact kind of artist that makes sense to do a movie like that. And, you know, that movie probably leans a little bit older and it makes her kind of a little bit more mature as an artist and broadens that really strong fan base. I just cannot really fault her at the moment. And what seems to be to come, I think, is coming at the right time. It doesn't feel like oversaturation. I think there is an appetite for new music from her. And it's just crazy 100%. To think that, like, when she was here last year in Australia, in February last year for Taylor as the support, unfortunately, I didn't get to see her because there was a big storm during her set. But she kind of was this, like, oh, that's crazy. Like, Sabrina Carpenter. Like, I loved Thumbs 10 years ago.
And so they keep on twiddling them thumbs, fiddle-a-dee-dee-dum, fiddle-a-dee-dee-dum.
Yeah.
And I loved Emails I Don't Send, but she felt like a secret, like less than 18 months ago.
Real.
And now she's genuinely the most impressive, recognizable pop star at the moment. Yeah, she's my number one, baby.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. And she's honestly like one more hit away from being like the kind of biggest pop star of this decade, I feel like, at this point. Like, the run that she's on is just phenomenal, and she's really the only one that could touch Taylor right now. Literally. I feel like. I'm so excited to hear this new single, but that is insane that we got through that episode and we didn't touch a single artist the same. Not even close. I mean, had I remembered Lorde, we would have overlapped at some point. But my Lorde amnesia, despite thinking about her every waking second of the day at the moment, has meant that we have totally different lists, which means I think that the people listening are going to have totally different lists. Who do you agree with more, Nick or me? I feel like you're going to get it on this one because yours was definitely
mine felt safe
more
though.
Pop leaning for the listeners. Mine was a bit all over the place, similar to my brain this week.
I do love that two lists in a row for you. You've had male rappers at the top of your best pop stars at the moment list. Like, knowing you for as long as I've known you, that's so off brand, and you've changed. And I think you should get back to your roots.
I have changed. New York has changed me.
It has.
The next list, I will be fighting to have a pop star, an actual pop star at number one, I promise. But they've got to come through with something good, please.
100%.
Thank you, Nic Kelly, for joining me. This has been a pleasure to be reunited over this beautifully clear Riverside Zoom connection. Can you tell people like where they can find you, where they can complain to you, where they can send compliments to?
Send hate mail to @nickkelly.mp3 on Instagram and Nick W. Kelly on TikTok. I sporadically post reels and TikToks, and the digital producer for our radio show posts about 3 of them a day for me. So there's always content out there. And I do a nightly radio show, 7 to 10 p.m. in Australia on the Hit Network, which you can listen to all around the world. We do a podcast every day as well. And Flop Stars will be back.
Will be back. This is the Frank Ocean album of the podcast world, I feel.
I've got the woodworking going on
Rihanna's
already.
next album. Sorry, Flop Stars cannot come back this year. We are pregnant. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. If you're loving it, rate it 5 stars, join our Discord, do all the things, and I will see you next time. Take care. Until then, goodbye. Goodbye, Nick.
Bye.